Man, oh man. Can you believe them Dolphins?
What do they do? Did they do
What
something?
happened?
Is this a good story? Are you going to
Are
tell
they
us
still
something
swimming?
cool?
No,
Tell
they've
us
been
something.
swimming, dude. They've been swimming. They're porpoises, man.
Oh yeah, they're a purpose.
They swim. They make noises. They're one called flipper sometimes.
That was adorable.
Football,
TD,
though.
touchdown.
No, football.
Ace
Hey,
Ventura.
it's Tuesday, isn't it?
Taco Tuesday.
TCSP time.
Hey.
Hey, before we go too far, I need to
Smokey
make a
Robinson.
correction. I need to make a correction on the show that we did a couple of shows ago. I don't really remember, but it was the show we did on sports teams, like cities, making both teams like hockey and basketball having two teams in the same, like Miami did recently with hockey and basketball, which of course we lost both. And in that episode, I mentioned that no city had won both at the same year. I was wrong.
Really?
I was wrong. LA just did it in 2020. 2020 was lost, right? I mean, that whole
That's what
COVID
it was.
year, so nobody really cared. So the
Yeah.
NBA was in the bubble, but the Lakers won. And baseball was playing with no fans, but the Dodgers won. So sorry, LA. I totally screwed you on all of that. So quick correction there. LA did do it in 2020, even though you really didn't because nobody cared because it was COVID. So
2020
we
was a blur,
appreciate
man.
that.
yeah,
We
whatever.
really appreciate that, Ken,
No
man.
problem. I just felt terrible. My brother actually told me, he said, yo.
Weak
screwed up.
sauce.
Checked you? That's good.
I'm being checked.
You got checked by Chuck, and
Got
that's a
checked by
beautiful
Chuck.
thing.
Yes, indeed.
Chuck,
That's
check
awesome,
it.
man.
Speaking
Built
of checking,
Different Group, how's it going, everybody? And Built Different Group and the Casually Serious Podcast fans over at Facebook as well as on YouTube. Thank you so much. If you have not done so, please subscribe. I'm poor, and every time one person subscribes, I get $1 mailed to me.
8 cents. 8 cents for me.
Yeah. So, anywho, thank you so much for showing up today, folks. We're talking about fantasy football, to play or not to play. Last year was tumultuous with a capital tumult, and the end got a little wacky. So
there was some drama.
There was some drama, and we decided we're going to bring in another friend of ours.
More drama.
To come in and talk about it, and hopefully bring some drama, because drama was exactly what it was last
really,
year.
Bob, it's just doing this for to even out the Cowboy Dolphin.
Even out the Cowboy Dolphin.
Really, all
We don't know that we don't know if it's a Cowboys fan. How do you even know that?
Because I know you too well, and I know how the show works, and I know our producers. So I guarantee you, we're about to see a Cowboy fan, one of maybe a dozen that could possibly be coming in. It could be Horatio. It's very possible.
The ratio.
Let's roll the ratio.
It's PG! And it is the Cowboys.
I think it was, guys. Come on.
That's one of my favorite Cowboy fans, though, so that's cool, man. Good choice. Good choice, producers.
Hey, how you doing, baby?
Oh, man, it's great to see you, man. This is awesome. Go Cowboys. I got Brian Smith already in Texas.
Hey,
El Paso, that man right there. Go get him, Brian. Go get him.
We're going to go back and forth. Hopefully there's going to be a lot of different fans up here, especially since obviously we're talking about fantasy football tonight. So,
attaboy, Timothy.
Not only Dolphin fans, not only Cowboys fans. I'm hoping we see some all kinds of crazy fan bases talking about it tonight, because that's exactly what this episode tonight is all about. Fantasy football, the game we all love to hate so friggin' bad. And to the point where, we decided last night that we were going to talk about it today. And
why not? In June.
The end of last year was, I'll go ahead and set it up, and then we'll just go ahead and get into it. So we all know what happened with Damar Hamlin, and the fact that his health was in such question that the coaches of both the Bengals and the Bills teams, if I'm not mistaken, both decided that they were not going to have that game played. So that game obviously was a very important game for many people, for many players. If you got the Bengals defense, Bills defense, all these players, the fact that game did not get played had major repercussions on the end of the fantasy football season for a lot of people, not discluding my wife and a couple very good friends of mine, since I'm in a league with you. So not only that, I've been finding over the years that fantasy football just has become more daunting and daunting and daunting. So the conversation is today whether we are all deciding to play again this year, and hopefully the folks in the comment section will be saying the same thing, whether they decide they're going to be playing and what reason they are or are not. So, let's roll with it. Ken, man, to play or not to play, dude?
Yeah, I've been running a league since 1999. We started it with, I think it was CBS Sportsline or something. It was like one of the first ones that did fantasy football online. And, we went through NFL.com and went through a few different ones. So we kind of settled on Yahoo, we've been using lately or last few years. But I mean, this is really a league that's going on almost 25 years, which is insane to even say out loud for something that I feel like every year I'm ready to be done with it. I think I might have won once in the 25 years. So I definitely don't fix my league to certainly help me very much. Might have been in the top 3, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. So I don't do well, but for some reason I do enjoy doing it, and I always come back to it. And even though it's something at the end of the season I might be frustrated with, when the season's about to start again, I just love football too much that it's like I feel like I need to be involved with it. I need to get this league going again and bring it back around again. It was all started with family and friends, and it's still pretty much that. So it's a little more than just playing fantasy football. It's a group that we do it with that also makes it exciting.
Indeed, I actually had pulled the wrong thing up there. I was
going to say, what the hell are we looking at right there, man? We're going to do some basketball.
Basketball, NBA.
Oh, hey. All right, man. We're doing fantasy basketball too.
I don't want to talk about basketball. We're bringing up the old CBS Sports line for Ken, man, right now, just for old shit.
Congratulations to the Denver Nuggets, though, by this.
Good
for them. First championship. Congrats. No, man. Be a gracious loser. We're the first losers, so it's not terrible.
Yeah. Hey. If you ain't first, you're last.
BG, how long you been playing fantasy football, and do you still feel the fever you felt when it was burning bright for you?
Yeah, I didn't start as early as Ken Man. I almost wanted to ask Ken Man, did you actually do it like Matthew Berry and do paper and pencil and shit like that? But you said it started out online. I thought that was pretty amazing that you've been around that long. But I didn't start till 2009. I had a guy they needed one person in this pay league, and it was short. I was in the military at the time, and I had never played fantasy football before. And I said, all right, fuck it, I'll do it. And so ended up getting the first pick, believe it or not, in the they're like, oh, hell no. And it's a pay league. And I drafted Adrian Peterson. Long story short, I went all the way to the championship that year, my first year. And Adrian Peterson, of course, fumbled it in the game, which I got a deficit in points, which knocked me out of the running for the championship. But when it came to the Damar Hamlin thing, the first thing I thought was, first of all, is the guy okay? Great. Let's make sure, first of all, we don't lose somebody on the field. And second of all, I thought about not only my league, I didn't even think about it at that point. I first thought about all of the players that play on DraftKings and FanDuel and all of these pay-for websites. I'm in Washington State. You can't gamble online unless you're at a casino. They have the BetMGM at the kiosk up here now in the casino, but you have to do it inside the brick and mortar. But when it came to that particular situation, I began to think, damn, I'd be really mad if I had some money tied up in one of those platforms. And I would like to hear from anybody that maybe if that were you, did you get your money back? How did FanDuel and DraftKings handle that? I don't know, because I'm up here in Washington State.
That is interesting and a good point too, because as a commit for my league personally, when this came around, I thought about this a lot. I even called a couple other people in the league that's been there for a while just to try to get their ideas and think, figure out what the best thing to do was. But for me personally, I think at the end of the day, it was just things happen in fantasy football, and somebody could get hurt pregame and not play. I mean, somebody can get hurt in the game and it's going to stop right there anyway for your points. In a large spectrum, a lot of different players, but individually, it's really all that happened. Like, it's not like everyone had one player that got screwed over. Well, every week, one player, you could get screwed over by for so many reasons. So I can understand to BG's point, especially with the daily fantasy leagues and stuff like that. That stuff's more based on individual players right here, right now, not necessarily team. So you're gonna, I'd be interested too to know what happened with that. I feel like in the fantasy realms, team wise, that's just one player went down for a for a team, you know. And ultimately, I left it at that. The points they got are the points they got, and that was it. So maybe I didn't make a lot of friends, but I still feel like that was the right way to handle it. You know, even though it was a weird situation, that's fantasy. It's gambling. It's like you're gonna know that there's things that you can't control in this game, right? Just watching the game in general, we can't control any of that. So
that's the thing with
the outcomes are
experts, though. They think they can control the outcome, but you're right. And I absolutely agree with you. One guy, but I thought first, like if I had money on one of these platforms, like I want my money back.
Right.
Yeah. If it was like a 1 day bet, you know, like it's one of those 1 day teams that you pick for the week, I think that's fair because that's 1 out of 12. You know, that's significant.
Well, you know, on a fantasy, sorry, talking about just one player. Now it could be the defense. They could have Kansas City or Buffalo's defense. You know, it could be a running back. It could be any of those. They could have multiple players on those teams in that particular game that week, which affected a lot of folks because the landscape shifted from the points.
That is true, and there are a lot of teams that will do that. A lot of players that'll draft a few players from the same team, especially when they're, you know, there's a lot of offense involved.
Cowboy homers, they do it all the time. They draft Dak Prescott, CD Lamb, whoever the tight end is, whoever the kicker is. I know plenty of Cowboy fans that do that shit.
Yeah, but that's not good. Like if you're a KC Chiefs fan, I get that because you get a lot of points there. But I'm just saying,
a lot of points.
Like you gotta get that. What are you picking Dolphins for, man? I just don't do that. I never tip. What
you talking about? I had Tua in my fantasy league last year. I picked him up off the wire. I mean, he was doing good, especially after everybody crapped on him when he went down and got hurt and thought he was going to be done.
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, he looked dead on the field, but still, we'll see what happens.
Well, I'll tell you
the Cowboys and the Dolphins play each other this year.
Yeah,
so we need revenge. You guys made us look silly last time. Can't happen again.
Is it Thanksgiving that they're playing them?
It is not. It's
not
Christmas Eve.
But it is in Miami.
Oh,
on Sunday. Yep.
Every 8 years.
305, baby.
So a group of my friends that I have been video gaming with for years and years and years, I decided, I think it was 15 years ago, to start a Yahoo Fantasy Football League with my gamer friends. It was just gamer friends.
Gamer.
And a bunch of, I think over the years, what we did in this league to make it more fun, because since we were gamers, we wanted to definitely throw like higher scores in there and the ability to do shit. So what we would do is a touchdown was 7 points. But if you got intercepted for a pick 6, the other team got +6. You got -6. Ooh. And it was a bunch of crazy shit where it was like 400 to 700 were the scores in some cases. It was absolutely insane. Damn, but over the years, I just started going back down to the Yahoo, you know, the basic, how they lay it all out. And it's a lot easier that way. And we started getting more competitive. But a lot of my gamer friends started dropping out. They weren't interested anymore, or they sucked, whatever the case may be. So I started incorporating other people in there that weren't gamers per se. And I think somebody in there was actually claiming to be who they weren't. But regardless, last year, for so many years, I had been tired of not only playing it, but having to run the league. And I don't mean like bored with it. It's just because it just not only is it tedious, but when you have stake in it and you're losing,
I love stake.
It makes it real hard. Makes it real hard to push in there. And I just canceled it last year. I said the straw that broke Campbell's back was that game that made everybody who was first, second, and third place so pissed off at me. As if it was me that was having to come up with those decisions.
You had everything to do with it, dude. You had
it was totally your fault, I think.
It was all on me. All on me. Fuck them all.
But regardless, you mentioned something before about players that, you know, maybe also just sucked. The thing with fantasy football is really all you have to do is set your lineups every week, right? I mean, truthfully, at the end of the day, if you suck in fantasy football, it's because you're not setting your lineups. And you could suck because you really are just putting players in, you have no idea who they are. But in general, if you've got a fairly decent team and you're setting your lineup every week, we've had players in our leagues that have just been one first year, second year that won the whole thing. Happens a lot, you know? And it doesn't matter how much you know about football either. I mean, I got some people, honestly, that just never, they don't know anything barely about football, and they drafted decent or auto drafted, and then just kind of stayed on top of just doing their,
hey dude, I got third
keeping
place
their
when you're
lineups
like
in
that.
every week, and ultimately got to the end and won our league. And that's and that just makes me realize it's just that there's no real talent to it at the end of the day. There is ability that some people have over others. I will say that for sure. There are certain people in our league that are always hovering at the top, and that's for a reason. So there is a semblance of skill involved to it, but for the most part, I believe this stuff is just fucking luck, man.
It's just matchup. It's just matchups. I mean,
it really is
a lot of luck, but you can apply some skill, especially if you know historically how players play against certain teams. You look at weather reports. There's all kind of people that look at crazy shit out there. Are they on turf? What size are their spikes? What's the air temperature? What's the wind chill?
Yeah.
Like
the weather makes sense though.
like
the
in
weather,
Buffalo, like is it snowing?
The football's inflated.
Yeah.
That's only for New England. That's
it's
only
gonna
for
be
the
raining
Patriots.
down there in Miami on South Beach. We're gonna run the ball. Dak probably not gonna pass it that much. So put all the Cowboys line, or the running backs in your lineup or whatnot.
No, weather makes sense. Weather makes sense.
Weather's
gonna, for
you
sure.
can look at little things like that to try to get an edge. But it's funny you say that, Ken, because fantasy football, like I said, when I started in 2009, that was going to be before I got into the Cowboy blogging and doing all of this stuff. Fantasy football was my wheelhouse. I was part of the Fantasy Sports Trade Association. I went to a meeting in Dallas where Mark Cuban of the Dallas Mavericks, the owner, was a keynote speaker, and he was talking about the gaming community, as Bob was alluring that him and his gaming tribe were playing online. Well, gaming is big time now, and it's also considered daily gaming. Now they have changed from Fantasy Sports Trade Association to Fantasy Sports Gaming Association. So it's big business, not just fantasy sports. You're talking about these kids on what's that game they play on the computer? Strike Force or whatever.
Oh, Call of Duty.
People are betting on those kids. They can't even gamble. They're not even old enough. But there's
platforms. They've been doing that for a while though.
This is what Mark what Mark Cuban was speaking of years ago. So Mark Cuban, he'd been way ahead of the HD TV scene, as he sold his companies and went out there and bought the Mavericks and got into the sports business. But yeah, it's the gaming the gaming community is right there with fantasy now in terms of these platforms.
And I was interested in, just because of how much people have been kind of on and off and hot and cold on doing fantasy football, even within my own league and stuff, in my own group of friends, that I looked up some stats, and it really shows that it's the daily fantasy stuff that's been around for maybe 10, 12 years now, that's actually declining big time from where it kind of spiked a few years ago, where the fantasy football groups are really staying pretty steady. The numbers of people that are playing, at least on those platforms, are staying very steady. So I don't know, it seems to me like it'd be waning off, but according to stats on all of these on these different websites, it's staying right where it's been at really for the last 20 years or so, percentage wise.
Yeah, true story. I was playing daily fantasy around that time in Oklahoma, where it was legal. And when I permanently transferred while I was still in the military up to Seattle, Washington State. I was still playing for about 2 weeks. And when I ran out of money, I went to go load more money. And as soon as I did that, I got a notification that says, you've been logged out, your account been shut down. I'm like, what the hell? They read the IP address on where I was at in Washington State on the app and did not allow me to put up any more money, and said, you're currently residing in a state that doesn't offer fantasy sports online.
And cover their ad.
And that's when I began to peel this shit. I was like, what? This is not even legal. It was only about 7 states at the time. And now it's crazy. Washington State was one of them, because before retiring, I wanted to open up a fantasy sports bar. That was my concept, was to have a fantasy sports bar. The chicks had to know fantasy sports bar, that working is serving the drinks. The bartender had to know, the guy at the door, whatever. You got a fantasy football theme in there, and you could have an operator in your own bar. Well, at that particular time, and I think this was, I went to the hearings down here in Washington State, and they were trying to put felonies on anybody that advertised daily fantasy sports on their airlines.
Ooh.
That was Washington State. But fast forward now, as a BetGM kiosk in all their casinos. It's almost to where you can do it here from your home, but you have to go to the casino to do it. But that's my input on it with fantasy sports. I love it, and I'm going to continue to play it. And I could talk forever about this shit because I love some fantasy sports. That's
that's your wheelhouse.
Get me on the show, bro.
I think that's why you're here. I think that's why you're here.
Yep,
we had a few people commenting. I noticed both on why they like to play and that draws more interest to them to the game. I saw somebody mention, and then also people talking about there are skills that you can have to help you with fantasy football, and also who you play against. I saw somebody mention if you're playing against a bunch of scrubs. I get that. There's leagues I've been in where it's like, God, man, these people, they just don't know what they're doing. Obviously,
you let me generally this guy and this guy?
right from the draft, you already know. You already know what you're dealing with sometimes in certain leagues, and that's why I feel like what I definitely have done is I've scaled back the number of leagues. I mean, there was a time where I might have been in 5 leagues.
3 to 5.
And I won't even think of that anymore. I run my league, and that's about it for me. Maybe I'll jump in a friend's league that might need somebody or whatever. But for the most part, I try to just stick with literally one league now for maybe the past 5 years or so. I feel like that's it. I do that and no more, and it feels right because my group of guys and in our group, we have people that really do care about getting their lineup set, doing things the right way, and I'm on people about it too, man. You don't set your lineups, you're out. You're out.
And it's a good thing.
Fantasy does teach you about other players, though. I've come to like some other players on other teams simply because I've drafted them and followed them.
Mm-hmm. So true. Good point. Good point.
Hey, for the most part, I'm not really a sports guy at all. All I am since I was a young kid is a hardcore Dallas Cowboys fan. It wasn't until like the 90s I started watching basketball.
I tried to beat it out of them when we were younger. I just couldn't though.
I tried to.
It's okay.
I was always following obviously the Heat and the Phoenix Suns were just amazing to watch. So I was into basketball, but football was really not my thing. Just Dallas Cowboys football. And when I started playing fantasy football was when I actually started getting a lot, more interested and more well-versed with other teams and players because of it, which is also driving a huge machine called the NFL Red Zone, which is another huge part of Sunday because me and my wife are sitting, we're not just watching, but the Cowboys game obviously is on. We're just watching that, but the rest of the time we're watching the Red Zone. And we're watching our fantasy football, and that's really the fun, and that's sort of like what sucks you all in. But I know for a fact the ending of last season, because of how it went down, plenty of people are now playing fantasy football this year because of it. It might not have just been that reason, but that's all they needed to happen for them to say, you know what, I've wanted.
They didn't want to play, man. Then they didn't want to play because at the end of the day, I'm sorry. That's just like sore loser shit. That's like, oh man, this happened to me. Screw this game. I mean, I've been there. I've said it. I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. This guy got hurt before the game. It's just another thing that happens in fantasy football. It just happens. Like if you're
and all those variables.
If you're saying you're leaving for that, you're not leaving for that. You're leaving because you don't want to play.
Yeah, that was just the reason they need. That was the tipping point.
Right. That was it. I'm done.
I'm going to tell you right now.
Still kick ass. You can pick all the players that week. You can have the greatest matchup, and all you need is your running back to roll his ankle, and your plan is fucking gone.
Exactly.
Or
0 game over. It's the Mike Tyson
Adrian
rule
Peterson
always.
To fumble in the championship game, and you're up 2, and then you fucking lose by 1. Yeah, thanks. I know exactly.
That's tough, man.
That's a little personal right there.
All kinds of scenarios that we feel in our heart still. Definitely. I don't know. I think that I probably, if you're still gonna have it, Ken, I'm gonna definitely stay in your league because I know it's competitive.
I'm here. It's got to talk Vic.
If you need one, I'll play in there.
Oh man, there you go.
You might have to take Vic's spot.
You might take. I'm done, man. I've been fucking tired of that shit for years, man. Like,
why?
I don't know. Well, I guess before, I played fantasy. I was like, you know what? I could be these guys. You know what I mean? And now I'm gotten this old, and I'm like, you know what? These guys are way younger than me. Way stronger than me. I don't give a fuck them. I don't give a shit. I don't even want to watch them.
Let me ask you
guys
about
the actual football players. I mean, we're talking about fantasy football games.
Everything, man.
You're talking about
fantasy sports. I'm talking about all
fantasy
sports
football is a big component of driving the growth of the NFL audience, though.
Of course,
I stopped giving a fuck about that, man. Everybody, when they stopped letting people get concussions and shit, and the people couldn't be laid out. I got tired. I'm like, fuck that shit. I don't even want to watch it. I want people.
Let me ask you guys this:
treasures, man. It's like they got
funny that you
think of the nation, man.
Let me ask you this: has the over the years, the changes in the rules, the softening of the game, which is definitely the truth, and the way referees have a much bigger part of the outcome of some of these games. Do you find that to be a variable at all? And
the NFL's rigged, man. The NFL's rigged. What you talking about?
Yeah, I agree, man. There's a lot of real convenient things that's happened, dude. You know what I mean? And it's just been too much, bro. I feel like it's like the World Wrestling Federation out there. I feel like they're just doing is all orchestrated, man. The Dolphins haven't won, bro. Wow. Why haven't the Dolphins fucking won, bro?
What do you mean? Why haven't the Dolphins?
Why haven't we won?
Why haven't
I'll tell you what, brother.
Won?
Why don't we have Drew? Why did we get called?
Why haven't the Chargers ever won? Why haven't the Cardinals ever won? How about the Browns never won a championship?
They have to have
never won a championship. We've won 2.
Good.
We've played
There's
for 5.
actually 12 teams, I think, in the NFL that have never won a Lombardi.
Right. So why are you
there's
sitting
a
there
reason
bitching
for
about
that.
the Dolphins?
And there's a reason for that.
There's a reason for that. Yeah, they suck. They're in small markets. They can't.
I disagree
there's no
with
salary cap anymore.
I disagree with what y'all are saying because if Jerry Jones could just write a ticket or write a check to get to the Super Bowl, why ain't he done it yet?
He did it, man. He did it. He did it in the 90s. He did it like 5 times.
No, he didn't run out of money.
He did not. Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson
brought those championships.
The Hurricanes. That's the Miami Hurricanes.
Jimmy Johnson.
Hurricanes, man.
That's it. Right. Not Barry Switzer. Not anyone else over there. Yeah. Jimmy brought those championships.
Don't say Barry Switzer.
Barry Switzer was just the Larry Coker.
Hey, I heard Jimmy just got put into the Miami Ring of Honor.
Yes, he is. I don't know what took so long with that. I was like, how were you not already here? But yes,
Jerry's punch. Damn.
I know.
Jerry's going to be dead before that guy gets into the Ring of Honor in Dallas.
And he has those freaking championships because of that man. He needs to understand that. But whatever. All good.
No, he understands that. He's just
does he?
He doesn't want to admit it. He won't admit it. He won't admit it.
Yeah.
It's his team.
Yeah.
So
and you love it, and you guys love it. Enjoy it.
No, man, we want Jimmy there. We all love Jimmy, dude. That's neither here nor there. I tell you this much: I know that I wish I was hardcore playing fantasy football when like the greatest show on turf was happening. I'd be putting my money on the freaking Rams all the time in that like 2000 year. Like
you had Kurt Warner and Dan Marino. You got Warren Moon. You got Warren Moon back in there. Imagine that.
Adrian Peterson and Karen Rodgers in my lineup. It wasn't even. I was like, damn. Like I was smoke. Everybody's like, this first year, he's like, how did he get in the league? And everybody was complaining, but it's, like you say, a dummy could set a lineup every week, and depending on what happens, I mean,
definitely rigged, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like the rigged thing for the NFL. I mean, because it's like they say that in the NBA too. The only control you really are going to ever have is officiating, right? I mean, like the league itself. You're not going to control players. That's just not happening. No, players aren't throwing anything. Players aren't trying to do. Players aren't told to run a script. Nothing like that's freaking happening.
What if they sign NDAs though? I know y'all know what NDAs.
And why is there like clear video?
That would be out. There's too many people, man. There's just too many players. That should.
Well, I mean, at certain levels,
you clear video before, man.
You're told that there's certain things you can and can't do, which in terms of how you talk about the game. I would think that. I haven't seen any players come out and admit they signed it. That would be the first start to see if this thing's really rigged. But I believe, like what Bob's saying, I think the Zebras have definitely shaped the outcome of games, and I think we all can agree on that.
Damn right, they definitely have, man.
Ask this: out of professional basketball, professional baseball, football, and hockey, out of those sports, I lost my train of thought there.
The NBA,
what's the hardest to officiate?
Well, no.
How much bullshit have they given us?
Out of those 4 sports, how many of those are listed as sports companies, and how many of them are just entertainment companies?
Well, I know the NFL is an entertainment company.
Right.
I think all of them are obviously entertainment, but because sports in general are entertainment, but there's also there's scripted sports like a lot of wrestling and other stuff of that nature, or roller blade, so all that kind of crazy stuff. But I don't
roller
think
derby.
Roller derby. There you go. Maybe not. Maybe those folks. I don't know. They're crazy.
The lovely ladies of glow.
At the highest level, when you're playing the game at the highest level, and for the NBA, that is the highest level of basketball, not just in the country but the world. In NHL, hockey is the highest level of hockey in the world. So is it obviously American football in the NBA.
Higher
And
than the
Major League
Olympics?
Baseball is the highest level of baseball, not just in America, but in the world. These are the
Olympics?
highest level of sports.
So-
These are the best of the best players are playing here. They are playing to win games. Maybe a lot of them play more for themselves and for teams. You get a lot of that, unfortunately, more today than maybe in the past. But the way the
There's no
businesses
loyalty,
now
man.
work, that's why you see that kind of stuff happening. But I don't buy into any of the rigged stuff. None of it. Not the officiating, not at the highest level. I don't buy into any of it. I call BS on every last bit of it.
Damn,
In this
man.
world
Look
of
at some of that Kool-Aid,
information,
bro.
where every last little thing, you can't piss in a corner without somebody knowing about it nowadays. You're telling me that all these hundreds and thousands of not just players, but all the affiliated people with the game, you think they're hiding something
This
and
message
nobody's
will
coming out and
self-destruct
saying
in
a
a minute,
word
bro.
about it?
Ken
Get
Man,
out,
are you a
man.
Heat
Get
fan?
out. I don't buy any of that. Not
Inspector
for a second.
Gadget, bro. That
All
thing
y'all
used
are
to
Heat
always
fans,
blow up after he heard it. Hell yeah, go Heat.
All of y'all are Heat fans,
I'm
right?
a
So I
huge
posed
Heat
this
fan.
question to 3 Heat fans on this panel today. With
Mhm.
the NBA being rigged, when the Miami Heat was down 3-0 and they came back and beat the Boston Celtics, you don't think officiating had any part of taking that to 7 games?
I will say I was at that game, that one game 6, and I was screaming. I was like, "You don't want a game 7, damn it, NBA!" The guy who says I don't buy into it, I was screaming, saying, "You all want the NBA wants this," you know. So it's funny you say that because I was probably closest.
for the NBA. It's easy. And when you see it, people
We
say
wanted
you
that
got to
game
go
7.
5 or 6. It's gonna go 7 for the ratings.
I know. Well, it
Are
didn't
there-
do
are
that.
there-
It didn't look. They didn't make that happen in the finals, man. We got beat by a
Oh,
much
well, I
better
mean,
team.
Joker and Murray are just too damn.
I mean, we shouldn't
Yeah,
even won
that's
the one game.
we
You
shouldn't
know
have
that
won the one
team's
game,
for
dude.
real. So
Oof.
Are
Make 'em
are
cool.
NHL, MLB, and NBA players allowed to call themselves whatever they want?
what do you mean call themselves whenever they want?
Whatever name they
What-
want to call
what
themselves,
you
are
mean,
they
like, with
allowed
their
to do that,
pronouns
or
are
do
you
they
talking about
have to
pronouns?
use? Nope, talking about just like Chad Ochocinco.
Mhm.
Is there
you
anybody
talking about
in the
like Meta
NFL?
World Peace?
There you
Is
go.
that-
NBA's
there's-
done it.
I mean,
so
why
So-
not?
That's a
actors
name.
I just don't
Totally
see
know
it.
the
I'm
Prince?
just wondering because I don't see it as much as I see it in the NFL.
I mean, Rain Dakota Prescott is called Dak. That's his middle name.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's-
but I think
That's
that's
football,
different
I
than
know.
it's more different than Sauce Gardner, and like
Well, that's his real name, Sauce, isn't it? Didn't his mama name
that's
him
a nick.
Sauce?
I thought that was a nickname, man. He's
I
got
thought
a
his
real
mama
name.
named him Sauce.
I mean,
That'd be-
if his
that'd
mama
be
called him
cool.
Clay, I'm gonna call him Clay. But yeah, I guess
if they got talent. They got talent. They're playing. They don't care what they want to call themselves. I don't think at the end of the day that really matters.
Megatron,
That's more of a
Yeah,
legal
make
thing for
game
them.
better. I would agree that Chad Ochocinco made the game a lot more fun with his antics.
Yeah, I mean,
Amazing. Yeah, I used to like
it was interesting. It was the media frenzy that kind of goes with it, I guess. But
it was
you
the
know,
beginning
to
of
me,
branding.
I wanted to see
Terrell
the guy
Owens was
play.
pretty wild too, but he didn't
Yeah.
change his name. My
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, T.O. disrespected the star. He got whooped up by Jeff Teague. You know, we know how that
Teague
works.
got-
Oh yeah, yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
Well, I think at the very least we can all agree that while last year's ending was tumultuous
lot
and
of dick.
crazy, it still was an ending, and we really had no control over it because we not only do we not have any control over the outcome of fantasy football. The direct line is because of the fact we don't have any control over the freaking game to begin with, and it does not matter what you put in your lineup or any of that shit. There are variables we don't have control of other than just placing people in different areas. And for some reason, we continue to do that, even though we wind up losing or sometimes coming close to winning or maybe even winning sometimes. So I guess it's safe to say
Take
we're
my
all
money. Take my money. That's what I say.
Three of
every
us.
year. Take my money. Whoever plays in my league, come and take my money.
whoever decides to
I'm
go
done.
back
I'm
and play
retired.
this year. Good luck. We're
There's
starting
one
to
right
see
there.
you,
Bye, Vic. Vic's not in our league anymore.
I don't know.
Welcome, BG. You're in.
The question still goes out to the audience. Anybody played on DraftKings or FanDuel at that time when the DeMar Hamlin injury happened? Is anybody watching that? Or if you watch this after the fact, leave us a comment. Let us know what happened. Did
No doubt.
FanDuel and DraftKings refund y'all money, or how did that play out?
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
Well,
that's a good question. This is a good question. I would like to know the answers to that.
good talk, guys. And
And so many other
BG, I
things.
appreciate you coming out and
Thanks,
spending some
BG.
time with us
Appreciate it.
talking
Great
about
seeing
it.
you, too.
Oh, wait, man, appreciate it, guys.
Awesome, man.
Hopefully you'll get in the league if Vic says he's retired.
I just told Kim, man, put me in there, baby. I'm in there.
All
Yeah,
right,
Slide
man.
to the
We got it.
side.
Done deal.
Folks, thanks for tuning in. Thank you for BDG Network and all you folks out there watching
Thank
the
you, guys.
Casually Serious podcast on YouTube and Facebook. We appreciate it. If you haven't done so, please like and subscribe. We'd love you so much. Have a good one, folks. We'll see you next week.